It's a little unfortunate that where the sun is, there's a little bit of bleeding between the red and the orange, and it kind of just makes it look lower quality. I'm probably never going to use that again. I'm going to be honest. That was probably a waste of like $70, but don't do what I did. Learn from my mistakes. These actually might be the best iPhone photos in terms of matching what my Lightroom looked like to what ended up on the paper. All right, so I'm going to be honest. This is not my best setup, and this is not indicative of my work, but I don't have a lot of time, and I want to get this video recorded, and I want to get it on the channel, and I have to brainstorm how I'm going to completely redo my setup, because right now I'm set up mostly for gaming, but I don't game anymore, so because I don't have any time with my business. So yeah, this is gonna look different, but I wanted to get this video out because it's something that I've been thinking a lot about, and I don't want to record it too long after the fact of when it's relevant. So let's just dive into it. I'm not an iPhone photographer, honestly. I have this iPhone 16. I took it with me on 2 trips this summer, and I wanted to talk about just the average user experience with an iPhone 16, 17 Pro. I mean, listen, I know the 17 Pro is going to have a nicer camera than this. I don't think it's that big of a difference that what I'm saying is completely irrelevant. I'm sure there's new features on the 17 that maybe make what I'm saying a little bit wrong, but you know, I don't think your average iPhone user is always keeping up to date with the latest models. And this is the Pro version, so I mean, what's on it is pretty damn good. That being said, I want to approach this video from the perspective of your average photographer, somebody who's gonna just use this phone to get better than JPEG quality photos, but not have to lug around like a mirrorless or a DSLR or something like that every day. So let's just take a look at some of the photos that I took this summer in Vermont and Japan. So there's mainly 2 parts to this. There's the video and the photo aspects of it. For the video, I ended up using the Blackmagic app. It's free. It's amazing. Again, you can kind of control almost everything that you normally would on a camera. And actually for the Japan shoot, I ended up having this little cage rig that I could attach a filter onto. I mostly use this just for video, and I only used it for a few days actually. So I think you'll be able to tell which clips I used the filter on and which ones I didn't. Obviously, putting the filter on, it's an ND filter. It just helped, you know, give me the ability to have more control over what my camera settings actually were, but at the cost of maybe compromising a little bit of the image quality. I don't know. I kind of cheaped out a little bit. This was the case that I used. You know, it's good quality. It's the newer case. It just, you know, opens up on the side. Go like this, put your phone in, close it, yada yada. There were just a couple issues that I had with, honestly. It's just, you know, I'm lugging around a bigger piece of metal. I bought the smaller iPhone Pro, so it was nice to just hurry up, put it in my pocket and not have to worry about it. But this made it so that it didn't really fit in my pocket as nicely. And also on top of that, I just felt like it was just kind of clunky and slippery in my hand. I couldn't use another case on it, so my bare iPhone was just on the back, and it started getting scratched and stuff just from, you know, constantly coming out of my pocket, hitting whatever. Thanks, Maxie, for joining us. This is the little filter that I got to be able to attach for the ND filter. As you see, my cat has joined me. You better not press any buttons. And then it just attaches right onto the back of the case, just like this. And it is attached. Now, at first, I was like, oh, this is super great because I could just take the ND filter off whenever I want. And then I can, you know, shoot at night or whatever. The annoying part that I didn't really think about is I'm on vacation, and the last thing I want to do is like have to worry about keeping this scratch free and also fingerprint free, because it's really easy to get fingerprints on it. Like, where am I going to put it in my pocket? Like, then you get condensation. You know how it is with lens caps when you put it in your pocket. So I will say this, I did find with the filter that if I left it on for photos, I didn't really notice too much of a difference. But for video, it definitely started making things look a little bit cloudier, a little bit muddier, and just not as crisp. So I don't know. It's just kind of annoying. What, I'm going to have to take the filter off every time I shoot a video to put it back on for the photo? I don't know. So I don't know, like, it's cool, I guess, if you're like an iPhone cinematographer and you have like a kit and you have the time to, you know, put it on and take it off. But if you're just on the go on vacation, this ended up being more trouble than it was worth. And honestly, I only ended up using it for a couple of days because I just got kind of annoyed. So yeah, again, you know, the camera is great for just taking it out of your pocket, taking a quick picture and getting pretty decent quality. But if you're gonna like actually put the money in to try to like get a good product out of your iPhone photos, it ends up becoming too much. Like, have you guys seen on YouTube videos where people are like, I shot this on an iPhone, and they have like lens extenders and filters, and then there's a whole rig with, I'm like, you might as well just bring your mirrorless camera at that point. Like, you're getting paid to shoot this ad, so yeah, of course you're just gonna make it look the best as possible. But this isn't very practical for your everyday iPhone user. And that's why I made this video, because I want to talk about my experiences with the iPhone on a day-to-day basis as a semi-professional, and, you know, what I'm actually using it for. Because I'm not trying to shoot an ad for an iPhone on an iPhone. I'm just trying to document my vacation, get better than average quality, but not at the cost of sacrificing, like, easeability. Is that the word I'm looking for? You guys know what I mean. I'm probably never going to use that again. I'm going to be honest. That was probably a waste of like $70, but don't do what I did. Learn from my mistakes. So let's just talk a little bit about the settings in the iPhone. So again, this is the 16. So going into the RAW format, I actually felt like I was able to really dive in Lightroom and change kind of whatever I wanted. Previously with my iPhone photos, I've had that problem where things just look too digital and too sharp. And so with that RAW format, I really felt like I was able to manipulate the image and really get that stupid little phone look out. I kind of felt like at a quick glance, a lot of these photos looked like they were actually taken from my DSLR because of the dynamic range I was able to get, and just the manipulation of that Apple log or that Apple RAW format just let me kind of do whatever. It actually felt very easy to edit with the RAW photos. That being said, the second that you zoom in on any of these photos, it really starts to show itself. And by that, I mean, you can tell it's an iPhone. Now listen, I didn't roll up thinking that I was going to be getting an A7 IV quality photo. I mean, if I wanted that, I would have brought my camera, but I brought the iPhone because I didn't want to have to lug around this expensive camera with me near water, on the boat, and stuff like that. So yeah, you're going to have to compromise a little bit, but I do still feel like it's very easy to just zoom in, and I don't even want to use the term pixel peep, because you don't need to pixel peep. Like, the second you zoom in or the second that you crop, it really just becomes very apparent that the image just falls apart. And it's not even just within Lightroom, by the way. I felt like the second I actually just zoomed in from the iPhone itself while I was taking the photo, if I went more than like 25% in, the image just fell flat and it just became super deteriorated and just didn't look good. And at that point, I said I might as well just shoot everything wide and then maybe crop a little bit in post. And I feel like I actually got better image quality out of that than trying to zoom in on the phone, which is never really fun. So after my trip in Vermont, I decided that, hey, I got all these pictures of the family. That would make a great Christmas gift. So I printed out, let me not show my address. So I printed out a few books on Shutterfly. Now, let me just stop you. I know what you're thinking. Why is a professional photographer using Shutterfly? Well, the reason I use Shutterfly is because, one, it was cheaper. But two, these are just iPhone photos. I didn't feel like I needed to get like a super high quality lab to print these things out because they're iPhone photos. But also the other reason is because I feel like most people that are taking photos on their iPhone are probably going to use a Shutterfly service to print out their photos, right? I mean, most people doing photography on their phone are probably not going to want to make their own books and hand curate everything in there. I mean, it was really easy. I just dropped a bunch of photos on, clicked the format, template, whatever, and just kind of moved the images around. So that's why I wanted to show you in this video how it came out, because I think this is probably the most practical application of iPhone photos. And also I'm really curious and wanted to open up on camera. So to my family that's watching this, hopefully you're not one of the ones getting this for Christmas, because I don't want to spoil, but yeah, sorry. Here's the book. So let's just take a look at the cover to start off. So this is a really pretty sunset of the Lake Willoughby in Vermont. Now, I actually really like the way the colors came out. I'm not sure how well you can see it on the camera. I'm not good at this, so please bear with me. But I actually do feel like this really replicated the image that I saw in the iPhone, and also just that I saw in real life. So I'm pretty happy with that. I'm a little upset that this is slightly off center because I know that I had it centered on the print, but I'm wondering if maybe the binding had something to do with it. Maybe it like just pushed it over. But overall, I mean, the quality is pretty nice. This is like a matte texture. And actually on the text, if you can see really quick, if it focuses, it actually has a little bit of a shine to it when the light hits it. Oh, and there's my cat. He always wants to say hi. Say hi, Maxie. Say hi, my baby. So this first image is supposed to be like the morning image that I took as soon as I got up. Actually, I'm just noticing too, the paper on here is actually pretty high quality. I thought that this would be closer to like a regular paper print, but it is soft. It feels like photo printed. It's a little bit thicker than I expected. So actually that's a nice plus to Shutterfly. But yeah, I mean, that printed, there's nothing too exciting about that photo. But I did make sure to kind of oversaturate a lot of these images in here. So like, for example, the reds in here, I really wanted to pop out. The reds and the blues, I really tried to, get out. This image here, it's a little warm probably. I don't know if this is how it was in the computer or if this is just how it ended up printing. I have a feeling I probably made it a little bit warmer than normal, and then it just kind of accentuated a little bit on print. The greens on here are a little warm. I like that though. I think it looks nice. This is the morning. It's supposed to look like the morning, and I'm happy with how that came out. So, oh yeah, this is actually one of my favorite spreads in the book because I really like the way that this photo is framed. Having Penny in the corner here and having this red corner as well. I just really, I don't know. I really like the way the lines are and the way that it is in there. So this is one of my favorite photos that I took. It's Alex and his mom. They are out sitting on Lake Willoughby in their little floaties, and they're just having the time of their life. I think this actually printed pretty well. It seems like the detail gets a little bit muddied. I wouldn't say that this is like super high quality, but for the size of this book, I think it actually just works out well. I mean, this is an 8x8. It's not that big. You can see by the size of my hand, it's not that big. And I think if you're going to print iPhone photos, that's probably the size you're going to have to do it. I would not go any larger than this. In fact, I feel like this one, for example, may have benefited from being a little bit smaller on the page, just so that the detail doesn't get stretched too thin. So this photo right here, there's actually not that much going on, but I really liked it because of the colors, just the way the light is hitting the room. I did edit in a little bit more of the shadow on the side just to kind of improve that dynamic range a little bit, but I just loved these colors, the blues, the oranges, even with that little bit of green, it just really makes it pop. And this is supposed to be the midday photo, we're out going onto the boats, taking maybe a lunch break. This is the scene that you see, and this is kind of what I tried to put over the spread here. There I am with my mother-in-law, my father-in-law, and his friend Bob. We are on the Boston Whaler on Lake Willoughby and having a grand old time. Okay, so here, now we're actually getting to the photos that I think matter the most because these are going to be like the artsy photos, quote unquote. These are the photos where there aren't really like a lot of moments happening, but I wanted to make sure I captured as much color as possible. And unfortunately, I think some of these fall a little flat and other ones actually don't look that bad. So let's start with this one. Maxie, why do you always do this? Okay, here we go. He's done now. So this is actually one of my favorite photos that I took. Unfortunately, I think it came out a little bit more desaturated than I wanted. I definitely feel like I had more color in here originally in the sky, especially. But it's not that it's bad. It's kind of got that desaturated look. The boat actually looks pretty good. Like the contrast is nice. But I'm not a huge fan of everything else in there. I definitely feel like something got lost in the print here. Versus here, I feel like it's actually a little oversaturated. And again, I don't know how well this is actually coming out on the camera, but this seems really high contrast, and I know I would not have edited this so high contrast because I don't like that look. Luckily enough, this one actually came out pretty good, and I think I'm saved on this one because it's smaller and not being like a full page spread, because I just feel like this already has a lot of high contrast, but I did edit it so that the blacks were as black as possible and everything else was kind of the same. I think that came across nicely in my photo, but I will say I do think the iPhone doesn't handle these kinds of shadows super well. That being said, I also feel like a lot of regular cameras don't handle these kinds of shadows super well. It gets kind of weird with water. That might be something next time I want to play around a little bit more with like a filter or something like that. But overall, I'm pretty happy with how the sky came out there. Then we have a few more photos from here. I think I feel kind of the same way. It's a little unfortunate that where the sun is, there's a little bit of bleeding between the red and the orange. Like right here, there's like a little bit of bleeding, and it kind of just makes it look lower quality. I don't know if that's just the printing or if that's the iPhone. I think it's a combination of both, if I'm going to be honest with you. But I mean, for these purposes, it's fine. It's just, these are not photos that I would ever professionally deliver. Okay, so this is going to actually be the real test for how these photos print, because this sunset in particular was extremely contrasty, and I tried my best to keep as much color as possible without making it too contrasty, if that makes sense. So this photo I think actually came out pretty good. It feels very even. I added a little bit of a gradient shadow at the bottom. And the sky doesn't seem too punchy. It actually is kind of pastel-y, which I like. And the greens aren't too vibrant. So I actually think this one came out pretty good. And this one, honestly, this is probably the best example of the print being exactly how I wanted it. You know, there's a little bit of lines that I can see in here. It's probably just from the low quality print. But all in all, it kept the image intact. I don't think there's anything that's warped. I don't think there's anything that's too saturated or too contrasty. This one's kind of hard for you to see, but this one came out good. This is where things start to get interesting, because you see that the way this printer is handling these yellows and these oranges is just not super great. It's a little bit punchier than I would have liked. I know for a fact this image I struggled with because I felt like the super contrasty parts had like no in between. It just went from like pastel to like super bright. So I do know that that one did get post-processed a decent amount, but that being said, I'm pretty certain that's not how I had it in the edit. So it looks like the contrast gets bumped a little bit in some of these images. I don't know if it's like an auto thing that happens, you know, people putting photos in here that look like trash, right? They're not putting, you know, pre-edited photos in here. They just have like an automation maybe that just adds contrast to some of these images that the AI deems not punchy enough, because it's definitely happening on some images and not on other ones. Actually, at a first glance, this might be my favorite page. I actually think these photos came out fantastic. I'm not going to lie. These came out exactly how I would have wanted. The blues are really subtle, and I like that. And the oranges, they have a nice blend with the yellows and the reds where it's not too punchy, and the contrast is not that high. These actually might be the best iPhone photos in terms of matching what my Lightroom looked like to what ended up on the paper. And this image is also really small, but I'm really happy with this one. There's just enough contrast to make it interesting, but not too much where it distracts. This one, I just really wish that I moved maybe 2 or 3 feet to the left so that these were separated and they weren't looking like they were the same object. I mean, it's 2 people and you can clearly tell that, but they look kind of connected, and I just wish there was a little bit of space between them. This one, the thing is, this one, I really wish I was able to zoom in a little bit more. And I tried to crop it like this, but the problem is the second that I cropped it, it just degraded too much. And that's, again, one of the problems that I've been having with the iPhone, because this looks great. It has a lot of dynamic range. It has a lot of color. I was able to manipulate the shadows how I wanted, but I don't love the composition, and I wasn't able to zoom in on my phone to make it look good. So I said, I'll just do it in post, and then cropping it, I remember having an issue with this too. So unfortunately, this could have been a much better photo, but alas, that's what we have. So this was another full page print, and this is one of my favorite photos. You can't see it on here, but there's actually the moon right here. I really like the composition of this photo, I'm not gonna lie, because you get a whole section of this dedicated to the sky, but it's not too overly saturated. I really punched down the saturation on this because I wanted it to match the mountains in the back. And you just barely see the moon, and you get a little bit of some, you know, floral stuff over here. And then you just get that sunset, that beautiful sunset. This is one of the most beautiful sunsets I've ever seen. Just hitting the valley and hitting the lake, and just, oh, it was beautiful. I'm really glad that this photo came out good. Honestly, this is a photo I could see myself printing, but unfortunately, again, I just don't think I can print this very big because, again, even at this size, I can see where the details start to get lost, especially in the trees and around the bridge. So these are some more for fun photos. You know, we went to a brewery, we had a couple of drinks, we went and got pizza. So there's nothing really too epic about these photos, but I thought it was a nice way to wrap up the book. And that's it. That's the book. So to wrap up this video, let me just leave you with my final thoughts here. Overall, I had a pretty pleasant experience. You know, I'm impressed with some of the images that came out of this camera, and I'm starting to realize that the ones that I use with the filter are the ones that I like the least. So part of me wishes I didn't even buy that filter in the first place, although some of the video came out pretty good. That being said, the filter was a real pain to try to get what I wanted out of the camera. So I'm going to dock some points off the iPhone for that, because I felt like I had to buy extra equipment to do it, but then the extra equipment kind of defeated the purpose of shooting on an iPhone to begin with. I think as long as you don't pixel peep and you kind of work within the limitations of the iPhone, you can actually get pretty decent quality out of it. That being said, I don't think I'd ever use this for more than a vacation. And even then, the next time I go to Vermont or Japan, I'm actually just going to be bringing this camera, because I just feel like I lost a lot of quality. Although I did have the ease of just having that phone, I could just go whoop, whoop, whoop. I really wish I just found a way to make it work with the better cameras. But that's also because I'm a professional photographer and I know what I can get an image to look like. If you're just your average Joe, I think using the in-body JPEG setting is probably more than enough. And if you wanted to start learning how to edit photos, you do have that raw option as well. So who do I think should be using an iPhone for photography? I think if you're a hobbyist, this is perfect. I think it gives you an entry point where if you'd want to do no extra work, you get an amazing image. If you're an aspiring photographer and you don't have any money, but you have a phone, you have the ability to shoot in that raw format, like I said, and learn how to color and learn all that stuff. Anyway, I hope you found that interesting, because I really wanted to approach this with the eyes of a professional photographer trying to just use this as an everyday tool. Because like I said, you go on YouTube and you search iPhone photography and you're going to be seeing somebody who is really just min-maxing this, not afraid to attach a bunch of things to it and make this thing huge, almost the size of a phone, just to get the best image. And no one's doing that. I'm gonna be honest, never once in my workflow have I ever shot anything on an iPhone, except one time. I'm a liar, actually. One time I shot something for the LITCG show. I needed another camera, so I just threw my phone up. Granted, this was on the iPhone 12. This was not on the new 16, I don't believe. And it just looked terrible. Honestly, almost unusable, but for what it was and for its purpose, I guess it kind of worked, but never again. I'd rather just rent a camera for the day. If you have any questions, please leave it down below. I would love to answer them. I really want to build up a community here where we can just talk about cameras, talk about going out and shooting, and just have a good time. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.